Okay. All righty. Now, there we go. The hour of 7:36 is now upon us. My apologies to everybody in public watching us at home because I'm having technical difficulties. I'd like to call to order tonight's business meeting for Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. Roll call, please.
Member Carter.
Here.
Member Demmett.
Here.
Member Patton.
Here.
Member Pulaski.
Here.
Member Fisher is here. Vice President Exum.
Here.
And President Hall.
Here. Do we have any additions, corrections, or modifications for tonight's agenda?
No.
Okay, seeing none. I'm going to ask for citizen statements if we have any tonight.
No, but I did want to make a comment for citizens. No, we do not have any formal citizen statements that we received, but prior to this, we were just talking about the technical difficulties in the room, and technical difficulties in terms of sound have been solved. So we will be returning to the boardroom. So I did want to let the public know, we still will have to follow our same procedures because we're going to be maximizing space to socially distance for administrators and for board members. So we still will allow public comments in, but it will continue to be one at a time. So we won't have a lot of available seating for the public moving into the future to allow space for us to be able to spread out in the room. So I just wanted to say that out loud during the citizen statement portion of this. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting everybody know.
Yes.
Do we have, I don't believe we have a call for an executive session after tonight's current meeting. So then I would need an approval of tonight's agenda would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call, please.
Member Carter.
Yes.
Member Demmett.
Yes.
Member Patton.
Yes.
Member Pulaski.
Yes.
Member Fisher votes yes. Vice President Exum.
Yes.
And President Hall.
Yes, agenda is approved. Now we move on. I don't believe we have any public hearings slated for tonight and no communications. So we will move straight into administrative reports. And our first report for the evening, we have Thomas Howley. Welcome, Tom, to talk about CU one-to-one mentoring with this year's directives. Thanks, and I'll let you have it.
Yeah.
Good.
Tom, do you want me to share your one pager?
No, I don't think that's
Okay.
necessary. Thank you,
Okay.
though.
Okay.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Ivory Tatum and everyone. January is National Mentoring Month. So I'm happy tonight to be able to take this opportunity to provide a brief update regarding the CU one-to-one program. I'm pleased to tell you that in the midst of the current pandemic, CU one-to-one mentoring continues. Currently, many mentors are meeting virtually with their mentees. Mentor coordinators arrange a day and a time for each Zoom meeting between mentors and mentees, and the mentor coordinator is present for each meeting as well. Virtual meetings allow for mentors and mentees to spend time together. They're able to communicate about current events, play games, and most importantly right now, foster a sense of connection. Right now, we're practicing social and physical distancing due to the pandemic, but as a recent article in the Journal of Evidence-Based Mentoring indicates, it's helpful for all of us to avoid emotional distancing. Connections and relationships are important, and CU one-to-one provides this opportunity. One of our current mentors at Urbana Middle School is with us this evening to share some of her experiences with virtual mentoring. Claudia has mentored 2 students with CU one-to-one, and she's mentored her current student for over 2 years. At this time, I would like to introduce Ms. Claudia Larimore.
Hello. Whoops. Hello. Good to see everyone.
And thank you. I'll start by saying I am also an Urbana alum, went to Urbana Junior High School at that time and graduated from Urbana High School in 1969. So celebrated our 50th reunion not a year ago or 2 years ago now. Anyway, I mentored my first student was in the 3rd grade at King, and then she went to Urbana Middle School and then Urbana High School, and left the community in her junior year of high school. But I stayed in contact with her after she left the community and visited her in her new location. And then I started mentoring my current mentee at Edison when she was in 6th grade. And but now she's at Urbana Middle School, so we'll talk about that. So I'll start out by just talking about, mentoring in it itself is wonderful. But then, okay, so here comes the pandemic, and on March 10th, the last thing I did out in the world was mentor. I was at Edison and I came home that day and basically didn't leave the house after that. That was when all of this started. And my mentee, because I had mentored her for several years now, I do know her guardian and have some connections. So was able to communicate through text basically, but was never actually able to speak with the mentee because she doesn't have a phone. So it was kind of through the adult guardian that she lives with. And so I was feeling a little disconnected. I wrote her a letter, sent a self-addressed stamped envelope, and a guardian texted me and said she got the letter, and she immediately wrote me back, but the adults never managed to help her get the letter mailed. So I never got that letter back. So it turned out that writing letters back and forth wasn't going to really work. It was a one-way communication, but I really wasn't getting feedback from her. And I'll tell you, that had a real impact on me. I really started feeling the loss of my mentee, and the joy really went from my life. She was one of the highlights of my week. My career was at Cunningham Children's Home. I worked there for 25 years. So I was used to being around young people, kids, and I loved that energy. And all of a sudden I was with an old guy at home and not many other people around, and I really missed that youth. And so then over the summer, the family moved from Champaign to Urbana. Well, one of the wonderful things about the CU mentoring program, the one-to-one mentoring program, is that Urbana and Champaign talk to each other. And as we know, these kids are moving back and forth across the line and going to all these different schools, and being able to connect with Mr. Hawley at the middle school, and knowing that really in this way, the mentor, I was the link between the two. I was the one that she was comfortable with and could talk to her, about, oh, you're going to Urbana Middle School. I went to school there, and I was the person she knew at that location. Along with other people in the community that she knows. But again, that was a strong connection for her. And then, just being able, when Mr. Hawley hooked us up the first time and I saw her little face and she was just smiling and happy to see me. I'm talking a lot about me, but I think mentoring is about the mentor and how much it gives us. But that also helped me be aware as a community member and an older adult taxpayer, how important this program is and to our education of our kids, because I got to see what it's like for a teacher to have to communicate with kids virtually. There are times when she freezes because she has a poor internet connection, and I can't really see what she's doing. And, there are days when she's not there and we have to call and find out, well, she didn't get to bed on time and, these kinds of things. So she didn't get up. And so you get an appreciation for what it's like for the teachers to try to teach and what some of the challenges can be. And that helps, I think, out in the community for me to share those kinds of things when people are talking about, how important it is to educate our kids and what's going on. And it also makes me appreciate all the things that teachers are doing to make this happen for our kids. She's actually then, how is it for her? Well, I think she's been sending me things now that she's working on in school. She's writing some stories. She sends me those to see. And when we're online, we're able to share the screen and she can show me some of her writing. And we talk a lot about that and her drawing. She's quite an artist. The other thing is, the advantages of being online is you don't have the distractions of the other kids. So sometimes when we're mentoring during the day, you've got the little boys that are trying to get her eye, and you've got the girls who want to horn in on the mentor and get some time with me. And, it's interesting to watch. So it's been fun to be one-on-one and really just have that focused time with her and not have to really share her with others in that regard. I don't know what else I can say other than to say it's a wonderful program for both, I think, the students. My student has struggled academically, and I see through this online program, the communication that her guardian is getting with some of her teachers seems stronger. And my mentee is starting to talk about the importance of her grades. And as she's going to be going into high school, and she recently told me last week that her goal for this semester was not to draw and not to write her own stories, but to work on her grades first. And then when her grades were up, she could start doing her other things. So I was pretty impressed with that. So I really think that's enough for me to say for now, Tom. So I'll turn it back to you. But thank you for giving me the opportunity, one, to be part of this program, for supporting the program, for supporting the mentee that I'm working with, and also all of the staff. They're wonderful. And this connection between the two school districts is really important. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you for being here this evening. And thank you for being a mentor. You do great work. I've seen it. I would just like, before closing this evening, I'd just like to share a bit of information about a few upcoming projects we're working on in the CU One-to-One program. This Thursday, we are hosting a virtual lunch for mentors. It's a virtual lunch, but there will be real food. Mentors will be invited to pick up soup from either Picaras or Piattos and then join us for a webinar with Martin Strajak on the topic of mentoring now. Martin is a licensed clinical social worker and a current mentor, and so we're really looking forward to his presentation. On February 12th, mentor coordinators and I will be presenting at the school district's Winter Institute on that same topic, mentoring now. We put an exclamation point and a question mark after it to just suggest, some people are saying, well, how can mentoring be going on now? We want to let people know that we are doing mentoring and talk a little bit about what that experience is like. We're also doing trainings for new mentors. We want everyone to know that. We have 2 upcoming trainings for anybody interested in becoming a mentor. One is on January 26th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. and the other is February 10th from 11:30 to 1 in the afternoon. And that is a way for us to continue to build the program and to make these matches between mentors and mentees when we're able. And finally, I'm excited just to share, in alignment with the board's commitment to racial equity and our district's mission and vision, all mentor coordinators are currently working on racial equity issues. The coordinators and I are working in committee on the following tasks. We're reviewing all of our documents right now to be sure that they are inclusive and equitable. For example, the applications for mentors and the applications for mentees, things like that. We are currently preparing additional racial equity trainings for mentors, both short, we call them flash trainings, as well as the longer trainings where they can go in depth a little bit more. We're also planning strategies to recruit more mentors, particularly people of color who can become mentors. And finally, we're providing ongoing opportunities for dialogue among mentors on the topic of racial equity. We're going to be doing several sessions this spring on racial equity. In conclusion this evening, I'd just like to say that mentoring is even more important now than ever before. We're excited about our current plans and thrilled that we're able to sustain so many mentoring relationships at this time. I'd like to thank all of you, members of the board, for your ongoing support of the CU One-to-One program. And I'd be happy to respond to any questions that you may have.
Thank you for a wonderful presentation, Tom and Claudia both. It was, real inspiring and a reminder of what a, wonderful program the one-to-one mentoring program is for both of our school districts. I was just wondering how much COVID has impacted the mentor-mentee pairs. How many are operating now? Has the number dropped significantly because of COVID? Because of the logistical challenges?
I'm back. I'm sorry, everybody froze up there, and I missed.
Oh, sure.
The first half of the question I heard, but
Just how many mentor-mentee pairs are operating right now? And, has that number dropped significantly because of COVID and the logistical challenges it presents?
Dropped significantly in both our districts. In some cases, we've been able to get in touch with the mentee, but the follow through on making the appointment between the mentee, the mentor, and the mentor coordinator can be challenging. I don't have a precise number of matches right now, but I do know that it is substantially lower than last year.
Okay. And thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Peggy.
I'm sorry, I forgot there was a second question. Will the mentorship scholarship event happen as it often does at the end of the school year this year for graduating seniors?
Typically, we do have a banquet at the end of the year.
Oh, wow, he's got a bad connection.
Know what we're going to be able to do, in regard to those banquets. We probably won't be able to have the largest, the high school banquet usually brings in about 500 people. And so it's unlikely that we're going to be able to get into one room with that many people that soon. But we are exploring options, possibly doing something smaller at each school, just to kind of celebrate and honor the accomplishments of the mentees.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, were there any other questions? Okay, well, thank you again, Tom and Claudia, for coming and giving your presentation. And I do hope that we see bigger numbers this year. And thanks for all your efforts with along this year with our initiatives and everything else. So good luck to you all. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, moving on to our second administrative report for the night. We have Dr. Ivory Tatum giving us an update on the in-person learning that's just started again yesterday. No, today. Today's Tuesday.
Today.
Sorry, I've lost all track of time.
Yeah, thanks, Ann. So tonight you're not going to have to bear with me the whole time for this presentation. So we're going to get a lot more participation, and people are going to be sharing out a lot more of their specific areas that they supervise and deal with. So I did want to let the board know, I know we did an in-person learning kind of an update presentation at our last meeting at the study session, which was more nuts and bolts and, you know, more about the programming. Today, we're going to give you a little more of a deeper dig into what is happening around some of our very specific areas. So moving forward for this update and the next one, the COVID-19 update, I plan to have an administrative update at every study session moving forward. Now that we have students back in person, we'll just make it a ongoing, you know, every single study session, I'll give you a little update on how in-person learning is going. I'll do the same thing with the COVID-19 update and share how testing's going, you know, share some of our data related to positivity rates and things like that. So just kind of look forward to, it may not be a full presentation every single time. It may just be kind of a mini update on this is how things are going. And we'll plan for those to mostly happen at the study sessions. Tonight is a little different because today was our first day back. And we really want to give you some more logistical information about, one, the first day was an enormous, it was just a great treat for me and all the other administrators here. We were all out in buildings today to see children and smiley faces. And, you know, I got to go to early childhood and see little ones getting off the bus with their masks on at the elementary level. Kim is going to go into more detail about it, but I'm just kind of sharing my own little anecdotes. It was just really nice to see a lot of positive adults, you know, welcoming students and happy to have children back in our buildings. It just felt really great. So Kim's going to give an update about enrollment. Todd's going to talk a little bit about how we're managing special services. John's going to give a brief update on technology. He's had to do some things to make sure that we're managing the students now that we have more people using our network. Carol's going to talk about meals. We've gotten a lot of questions about the meal distribution and making sure that we're still feeding families through this. And then Angie's going to give you a little update about staffing and where we are today compared to where we were 2 weeks ago. Okay, so we're going to start with Kim with enrollment.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen here. Give me just a second. Try that doc again. Okay, last time when we met, I shared this chart with you, and we did provide some updates in one column in particular. So you'll see that the confirmed, the in-person projections, we left that column the same, but I want to focus now on the confirmed in-person numbers. So from the last time we discussed this, we do see a little bit of a dip in some of our elementary schools and the high school with confirmed in-person numbers. And the reason being for that is as we get parent consents. And so we still are getting those. In fact, we told our administrators that they could accept those. The students were arriving today, and so they were working on that. So we expect these numbers to continue to increase, but we did see a dip from the last time. And again, it's just because we were not able to get all those parent consent forms right off the bat. So we see, I'll just kind of scroll so you can see with DPW at 138, UC ECS at 149, Leo 110, Wiley at 36, King at 92, Yankee Ridge at 67, UMS at 197, UHS at 102, and Thomas Paine at 115, with a total of 1,006. And you'll see our current enrollment is about 4,121. So today, as Dr. Ivory Tatum said, it was a really exciting day to see students back into the building. Our pre-K, K, 5, and 9 transition today. And that really gave us the opportunity to focus on all of the logistics, the procedures, as students were coming in. One of the most delighting things for me was seeing our kindergarten students this morning, and they were following the procedures like champs. They were standing on the lines. They were in straight little rows, and they had question after question. I mean, they were so excited to be there, you know, and they were full of compliments, and we gave them right back to them. And it was just wonderful. And they were just so excited to be there. But we'll continue to get our numbers up. Tomorrow's a remote day again. And then on Thursday, the elementary schools, 2nd and 4th will join. And then we will have 1st and 4th. And then on Friday, we'll have 2nd and 3rd that will join. And then at UMS today, we had students across the board, and they had a strong start today. So it was really exciting to hear that. Any questions?
In terms of no, could you scroll back up to the columns of this, the title?
I sure can.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I mean, what was interesting is that the in-person projections were substantially off for some of the schools. Was this based on the number of kids who were asked to come back, the projections, or?
It was really a combination of the surveys, but then we wanted to continue to reach out in many, many phone calls.
I see. I mean,
So then based on those phone calls, a parent, parents or guardians initially said yes. And then we've just, like, as I said, it's been getting the parent consent and getting that confirmation.
Okay.
And Paul, the projections also were our max cap of the number of students that we could allow per classroom. We were really factoring in that,
Okay.
most of our surveys, we've been getting, like Kim said, about a 50-50 response. And because 10 was kind of our magic number. So like if you look at Wiley, they have 12 classrooms. So we knew we could not go over 120 students if we were going to stay at that 10 per, 10 students per 12 classrooms. So that kind of played into it as well.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Other questions for Kim?
Did any of the parents who had previously said yes, but now said no, did they give any indication as to if there was an issue or any communication there?
Really, I've just received within the last week or two a couple additional remote requests. So we really haven't. I just think some it's just getting the documentation back. We really haven't had a large number that's changed their mind.
Okay.
And Tori, I think a couple who have reached out to me, it has been just the positivity rate and a little nervousness about where we might be countywide or in our community with COVID transmission numbers.
Okay.
People just kind of wanting to make sure that that number is going down and not up, which it is what it is doing. So.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure there weren't any other barriers or issues there that maybe we could look at. But obviously that's not something that we're going to be able to control with positivity.
Yeah.
Kim, can I ask, can families who have requested remote only change their mind before the end of the trimester or the end of the quarter, because of availability of vaccines or testing or positivity rates? Can they, or are they locked into their decision?
We did ask that they make that decision for 1 quarter.
Okay. So the next time they could, people who are in person can revert to remote. It sounds like some who said I'm coming, they can revert to remote, but the reverse can't happen until the end of the quarter.
Correct. And for those that are in person, we've received questions like, what if they miss the bus, or what if they're not feeling well? And the wonderful thing is they still do have their device at home that they can use in those circumstances and still connect remotely.
Okay, but then the question is open again at the end of the quarter. Additional folks can indicate in person with availability,
Correct.
maximum availability. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Is there any way to gauge on any particular grade level that you have a heavier population in, other than, the other classes and grades?
I'd have to look
Or
just
more
across
going
the
up
district.
into high school? Yeah, I think you'll get what I meant.
It kind of varies by school. For example, at Wiley, they have close to the max at the kindergarten class, but it's not a particular pattern that we'd say kindergarten overall.
Okay.
Kim, I had a question. How did did you have enough nurses at each site, and how did that go as far as the forms that parents and everybody was supposed to fill out, and temperature checks, all of that?
So I'll take that because I
Yep.
played nurse today. So we do not have a nurse at Thomas Paine. That nurse resigned, somewhere between the mid second quarter. So we have two candidates that we're in the middle of interviewing, one later this week. And then we have a nurse that is currently remote for medical reasons. So our district nurse is covering that particular school. And then I went over and supported it, one of our elementary buildings this morning. So we're figuring it out, Brenda. It's a good question. We have a couple of our nurses who only work half days because they work other jobs. So they're not working a full day. So they are there in the mornings while the students are there. So we definitely have in the buildings where we have a nurse. So we do have coverage every morning. And then in the afternoons, I have some additional people who are going through the rapid testing protocols and trainings. So we'll have somebody else who, while the ASCCP students are in the buildings, they're going to be in the buildings until 3. So Sandy Davin is being trained. She's already an EMT. So, doing the rapid testing is going to be, easy for her. She's just got to go through the training. So we'll have additional people in the afternoons to support the 3 buildings that don't have a 6-hour nurse. And our plan is any student that's symptomatic in the afternoon at the ASCCP program will just be sent home, and we'll follow our COVID protocols. But then we'll have another person who can come and test any symptomatic staff members. So symptomatic staff members at the building where we don't have a nurse will still have the ability to be tested too. So good question.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kim? Okay, I think we're going to move on to Todd, Special Services.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. And again, before I talk about student services, special education, I just wanted to echo what Kim and Jennifer said. I had the pleasure of spending some time at Leal this morning, seeing their start of the day, and then headed over to Gerber for a bit. So lots of good things going on. I watched temperature checks in action. So, for first day, I think everybody did a really great job. Everybody was very positive. The building looked great. So it was really, really good to see kids in buildings and start to get back towards, that more in-person instruction. So in relation to instruction-related services for students with disabilities at school. So again, this is day 1 for all of us. We have spent a lot of time talking with our special education staff, and our staff has spent a lot of time talking with families about services, truly there is no one size fits all for this situation. And flexibility and collaboration continue to be our watchwords. As we've talked to staff about how they're going to serve students, we've really asked them to weigh different practical and individual factors when deciding whether they're providing services remotely or face-to-face or in person with students. There are certain situations out there that might require privacy or confidentiality for students, or other specific considerations so students can benefit from instruction and related services. And at the same time, we've had very frank conversations with our staff about being mindful about we are really trying to minimize staff members spending significant amount of times moving between classrooms during the day. We're trying to maintain those bubbles of students, so we're not mixing students, but still trying to meet everybody's individual needs as best we can. So some of the guidance and guidelines and things we've talked about with our staff are if they're going to see students in person and they might be pulling students from a classroom for services, they should only be pulled from that same bubble or group of students or classroom to minimize students from different classrooms mixing together and then returning to their respective classrooms. Really like we have for all of our staff, making sure that they are, cleaning or wiping down their spaces between students for those pull-out services, making sure they're considering as needed additional PPE, such as face shield or gloves for individual situations, and all those other, good sort of pieces that we ask our folks to do in terms of distancing, hand washing, sanitizers, those kind of things. And we really do just have just about every kind of constellation and configuration of services, between having some staff members that are remote and kids in person. We have other times when kids are remote and staff might be working at buildings. We have situations where both are remote, and times when students and staff are both in person. So it really has been a lot of collaboration and conversations with our building level teams. But I'm very, very proud of our staff and families, and everybody's really working together to make this work. So, again, it's day one, but I really think, as I've had conversation with staff, and Diane Richardson, our Director of Student Services, and Katie Madigan have met with individual building staffs and problem solved. I think they're doing a great job. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or not, but there we are.
I think Peggy's trying to unmute.
Well, it sounds like we have adequate number of our special ed staff available to meet the needs of the students we have. I mean, I know there's been some staff who weren't able to come back in person, but it sounds like, as you mentioned, the different constellations, you can ensure that our students are getting the services they need.
And I should have mentioned too, our staff is also really creative working with our families, because a lot of them aren't only working with students during their synchronous time when they're at school, but they also might be taking advantage of some of that asynchronous time, like at elementary when they have their asynchronous time in the afternoon. Families and service providers may decide that might be the best time for the students, for example, to get their speech services or some additional support from a teacher. So try to be flexible and creative to meet all those needs with the entire school day that we have available.
Other questions for Todd? Okay. John, a little update on technology for in person.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here, and I was super excited to be out in schools today as well. It's great to see kids in classrooms learning from the teachers, and the smiles on everybody's faces as they kind of came back today. So it was really exciting. I got to be in 8 of our schools today, so it was great to see kids out in buildings. So a little bit about the technology that's been going on to kind of get us to this point. And I'll be a little bit brief, but I wanted to let you know some of the things the USD IT team has been doing. One of the biggest ones has been replacing a lot of our network infrastructure as we've relied more heavily on Zoom and Chromebooks and teacher online interaction with students, it's become apparent that we really needed to upgrade a lot of our infrastructure. So over the past about 2 weeks, we've been upgrading a lot of the switches in a lot of our buildings. The IT team has really been working hard to get that done. And a lot of that has been, as the network is right now, it's kind of like a chain, and a lot of the links of the chain, if any one of those links breaks, it kind of breaks the whole rest of the chain. So what we're doing now is going to be kind of the first step to kind of form that into a ring so that you can break any part of the ring and it still kind of feeds around from the other side. I'm really excited about that, and our team has put in a lot of work getting that done. The other thing we've got kind of coming up soon is our wireless upgrade. We've been doing a lot of work to receive all the wireless infrastructure, and the IT team has been working really hard to get that set up. And hopefully in the next months, we're going to do a complete wireless upgrade of almost all of the infrastructure in the district up to the new wireless AX standard that's going to be able to allow us to support a lot more devices as students start to return. The other thing we've done recently is put a new content filtering system in place, and the IT staff has worked really hard on getting that done to make sure that the students are able to be on their devices, but also be safe and not get to inappropriate content or dangerous things on the internet. Over the past 9 months, they've worked very tirelessly managing the Chromebook needs for the district. First distributing almost 3,000 Chromebooks to students for at-home use. And now as they're coming back, kind of reverting that and rewiring all those carts and redoing everything that's needed to get the carts back in the classroom and back in service as staff and students are coming back this week. So really proud of the team for that. And that's been a really heavy lift for a lot of people over the last 9 months. Also, implementing online registration earlier this year was another great thing that they did. Very difficult, but a big benefit as students are online and not needing to come in to register. As all the staff members have been shifting to remote learning and teaching from school, providing them with extra tools and infrastructure like the Zoom meetings that everybody has been seeing, and all the extra laptops and kind of support and software that has to go in place to support that. And then also figuring out all the logistics, so much stuff to keep all the students connected and to allow efficient communication with teachers and staff. So it's been just really, there's a lot been going on, and I'm really excited about some of the things that we have coming up in the future as we start to roll out the rest of the technology plan that we're talking about right now. There's a lot exciting going on in the district. So I don't know, in any other year, like any 1 or 2 of these things would have been a major accomplishment, but for the IT team to be able to achieve all of this, I'm just like so proud of what they've done and so proud of everything that they've been able to accomplish. And I know it's easy to kind of forget because everything just works most of the time, but behind like every Zoom meeting and every Google Classroom, there's somebody tirelessly behind the scenes working on all that stuff, and all the IT members throughout the community just amazingly proud of everything that they've gotten done.
Thanks, John. Before we take questions, I also want to give kudos to the team. I know this is John's 3rd week on the job, but as he mentioned in the last 2 weeks, as you guys know, the teachers all came back on January 4th. And so everybody's been working from their classrooms. And so all these network upgrades have basically been happening after hours, so, we can't, when we do these upgrades, we have to take down the school's whole network. So all of these switching out switches and things that John talked about happen in most cases after 3 o'clock. So for the last 2 weeks, his staff basically, and John, they were working Saturday. They've been working, during the day and then staying in the evenings too, to get these networks upgraded in time to receive students today. So I just wanted to also publicly thank you and the team for all of your work the last 2 weeks. So, questions for John?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you and your team for this Herculean effort you all put in. It's amazing the amount of work you've got. I work in IT, so I'm quite aware of how hard it is to get things done in a compressed time schedule like this, and that's incredible. So thank you, and thanks for coming. But thinking forward, I know you're getting your bearings, but have you given any thought to working on kind of a longer term planning, a strategic plan, essentially for IT and what that would look like to make sure your team is properly resourced?
Now, Paul, John wanted to talk about all of that, and I said, no, you can't talk about that tonight. But see, like he's ready. So go, John.
I am super excited to tell you about some of the things we have coming up. There's a lot of stuff that is kind of in the incipient stages where we're doing some planning, but there are some really, really exciting things on the horizon that I've had the opportunity to talk with almost all the principals about, and kind of have some plans coming up. And I hope to talk about that at a later meeting. I don't think we're ready to dive into it all right now, but some of the things are going to be some additional Chromebook rollouts, and some implementing some additional programs with that, and some additional classroom technology. We're kind of looking at laying out the groundwork for some of those things. So, and then also additional infrastructure upgrades. We just put in our E-rate submission in a very quick turnaround, a little bit frantic turnaround time for me in the past couple weeks, but our E-rate plan for kind of the next 18 months going forward for additional network reliability and redundancy. So, and thank you. I appreciate the kudos, but really everything should be for the USD IT team. They've really been putting in all the work. I just got here at the last minute to tell you guys about it. So.
And Paul, you're part of the technology committee, and that is one of the things that John is anxious to get started. We just needed to get through these 2 weeks to get the network kind of prepared for students. But the technology committee is the next thing on his radar. And so that's one of the reasons he's being a little cryptic, is he wants to be able to share a lot of that strategic planning, those upcoming projects with the technology team first, technology committee first, sorry. And then, kind of bringing it back here and having a wider strategic conversation. So.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you. I look forward to that.
Yep.
I know that we're supposed to be talking about what happened today, but this does bring up that maybe one of the silver linings of this horrible thing we've been through with the COVID and having to dismiss school basically is that maybe there's some different ways of delivering education, even when we're not subject to COVID, that technology might allow us to do such things as reverse classrooms and just different methodologies that might be available. And so, John, I know that from your background that you already know all about all this, but I want to give a handout that I think this board is ready to listen to some of these kinds of new ways of doing things that can maybe make our when we return to 100% in person, that maybe it'll be much more effective through tools that our students are used to using, that we as adults are not used to using, but the students are. And I bring this up because I'm hearing from some high school students that actually some of them are thriving better with remote learning than they did with in-person learning. So that causes me to have to open up my mind to say, just going back to what we were doing in 2018 is not what we should be about.
Absolutely. And John, we're on the same page. I see Kim nodding too. So I've already had a couple early conversations with our middle school and our high school team, specifically the middle school principals. So we're putting together a group to already start planning for that for next year. We're hearing that from students too and parents. So we're looking not just to think about what are we going to be doing for virtually to kind of keep those virtual and technology pieces that we enjoy and the tools and strategies, but also how we're going to utilize those things to help us recoup some of the learning loss. What are some of those strategic, innovative and creative things that we can do now, you know, as our positivity rates start going down with getting more kids in the building and getting kids in front of us for more time than what we're doing now. So we're starting, Kim and I have already started talking about this a little bit, and we're bringing John in to talk about keeping like a virtual academy kind of programming. We have not, I don't even want to say, you know, really fleshed it out yet, but just in the very early stages. So Thursday at our administrative meeting, we're going to start having some early conversations with administrators and putting together a group to start planning for that for next year. So yeah,
So along those lines,
with you.
Oops, sorry. So along those lines, this might be a great opportunity. You know, one of the things that got put on the shelf because of COVID was our initiative towards a greater student voice.
Yes.
And maybe this is one of the areas in particular that I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we should be taking advantage of some of the student initiatives that we've got going. Some of the students in our high school and middle school that are would be highly motivated to be involved in this type of project and would be a source of great ideas.
Yep. Agree.
Can I just piggyback on that, this kind of thread about, you know, planning for new ways of learning once, you know, post-COVID, based on what we've learned this past year. Will some of those discussions be part of the strategic planning process, which I know it will be rolled out? Is that okay? I mean, will there be a kind of a intentional focus on some of those things?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. We want to have some of those we can't kind of wait for that, you know, because again, I want, you know, the strategic planning piece will have to be a much larger group and involve some in person, but we want to start planning a strand and, you know, kind of an umbrella for that for next year right away to talk about some of this virtual academy, you know, extending the school day for certain kids, things like that now, but definitely those would fall under the umbrella of bigger picture strategic planning when we get to that point. So yes.
Great, thank you. And are we still thinking, I mean, can you remind me what the latest thinking is about when the strategic plan may kick off? I know we've had to amend it, you know, a whole bunch because of COVID, but what's your current thinking?
Well, my intention was to be doing that this year, but because of COVID and our restrictions on not being able to meet in person. So once our in-person numbers improve, I think there's some things that we can do remotely and virtually, but in order to have real conversations, we need to be in a big room where we can be together and work together. And so I think there's a huge in-person component to it. That as soon as we're able to get into that phase 4, hopefully phase 5, more people vaccinated kind of, world, hopefully that'll be later this spring that we can kind of get that group going. My goal last spring to have that group starting in April, May, and then work through the summer and then, bring some ideas back in August. So now we're a year behind. So hopefully, March, April-ish, we'll be at a point where we can have some people coming together in bigger groups and smaller groups and start having some of those face-to-face conversations.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Peggy.
And thank you, John, for hitting the ground running. We really appreciate your expertise and energy.
It's been my pleasure.
Other technology questions or comments? All right, Carol, I know we've got a lot of questions about meals and meal distribution.
Yes, hello, everyone. Just wanted to update you real quick. As most of you know, we've been doing our meal distributions since the pandemic began back in March, pretty much nonstop. So, I mean, we've been getting meals out to our families from day one. So, and that's not going to stop now. So even though we have some kids coming back in person, we are still going to be doing our distributions for those families that will continue remote. So I'll be talking about both of those items just real quick. So for our elementaries today, our first day back, elementaries are doing breakfast on site daily. So they will actually have meals. They're going to meet up in the multi-purpose room or the gym of every school. And we have everybody socially distanced and eating breakfast on site if they want to. They won't be eating lunch at school. They'll be having a bag in their classroom that they'll take home with them and then have lunch at home. If they do stay for the after school program though, those students will have a hot lunch daily. But even though they're gone on Wednesday, like tomorrow, we actually sent home meals today, not only for today, but tomorrow's breakfast and lunch as well. So even though the kids aren't with us on Wednesdays and on the weekends, we will send home meals the day before. So for the weekend, on Friday, we'll send home meals so that they have meals for every day of the weekend. So we're giving them meals 7 days a week, no matter what. For the high school and middle school, we do try to accommodate. I mean, everybody's needs are different, so we're not doing the same thing at the high schools that what we're doing at the middle school. The middle school chose to not have breakfast on site, so we're going to be sending those breakfasts home with them. However, they do have a hot lunch at the middle school that they will be serving on site. And then they'll be taking home their breakfast for the next day. At the high school, they're going to have grab and go breakfasts available for the kids when they come in the morning. And they have designated sites around the high school that they can go and eat if they want to. And then when they leave school, they can grab a lunch to take home with them. So for those kids that are at school, that's what's going to be happening. Now for Wednesday, since Wednesday's our remote day, and just because of storage reasons and having more staff available to help out, we're going to be going to, instead of doing the Tuesday, Thursday meal distributions like we've done since the pandemic began, we're going to just go to a 1 day a week distribution on Wednesdays, starting tomorrow. Actually, it's our first day to go to 1 day a week. We're going to have 7 days of meals to hand out between 11:30 and 12:30, and that's going to be available at all the elementary schools and at the middle school. So that's been put out there on Facebook, on our website. Hopefully we've been handing it out to families as they do come through the drive-ups to let them know as well. So wanted to mention that, but that will start tomorrow between 11:30 and 12:30. So we'll be doing that weekly for those families that aren't going to be in person getting their meals. That way they can drive through and get the meals if they want to every Wednesday. So I think that's it for meals. Does anybody have any questions? We'll be talking a little more about food service later on the agenda too.
So when you say they get 7 days of meals, you mean like they're going to get like a box of?
Yep, a box. It will be a box of 7 breakfasts and 7 lunches bagged up. So.
And it's just for any student who is in Urbana School District.
We're not taking names, so they just do tallies of kids that drive through. So as long as it's for students 18 or under, or any student at 21 for special ed, if you're enrolled in Urbana School, so you can come through and get a meal for your family.
That's wonderful.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other meal questions for Carol? I know, yeah, like she said, we're going to be talking about this a little bit more later, but that gives you more of an in-person update on how we're handling meals and distribution.
Yeah, and the menus are still on our website. If anybody's interested in what kinds of things we're providing, those are on our website as well. Okay, thank you.
All right, last but not least, Angie's going to give us an update from our last discussion about staffing.
Hey everybody. So the last board meeting, so 2 weeks ago tonight, I just wanted to give you a little update on where we were. We've had 13 more requests from staff members to work remotely since January 5th. So we really haven't had a day go by where we haven't had a request. So we do recognize that different staff members have to work remotely for various medical reasons. And so that is completely understandable. And as a district, we are taking a stance that we want to be able to support our staff members. And so it's never been a question of not supporting. And so what the issue is just kind of the timeliness of the request. It's made it a little bit harder to plan to be able to support our kids. And so, for example, we got 3 requests that came in today, but I am so optimistic because on Thursday, because tomorrow's a remote day, on Thursday, it's going to be the first day that we don't get any requests to work remotely. And I'm going to go to all the schools and I'm going to visit, and I'm going to be able to see the kindergartners enjoying their first week of school experience, and just go around and do all the things and see all the protocols and safety things we have in place to see our kids learning. And I'm not going to have any staff requests to work remotely. So I just know this is going to happen because I feel it in my bones, Ruth Ann. And when we feel it in our bones, it happens. So I think that we're not going to have any more requests this week. And that's just what I think. So that's where we're at.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Angie. Questions?
I have a quick question, if you guys can hear me okay.
Mhm.
Is there a threshold, though, at which receiving remote requests would mean you wouldn't be able to deliver for the in-person learning for the students who are in person? What's I know you've talked about it before, and I don't know if you're even close to that yet, or if that's something you're worried about.
So if you're talking about staffing, so the staffing's a little, so like the kids have already kind of made their options, right? They've decided if they're coming back, and if they're coming back and choose to go to remote for whatever reason, that's fine. With the adults, it's a little trickier. We would like adults to give us as much notice as possible, since we've had it as an option to request since July of 2020, so about 6 months ago. However, different staff members have different things that come up, but for the most part, if you have a health history that's at risk, you've known about it for a while. And so I don't know if staff members didn't think that we were, really weren't coming back, or sometimes, people are a little anxious about coming back. But I think that once people see that we really have protocols in place and see that it's safe, I think that people are going to feel good about it. And we do have some staff members that have turned in medical notes to work remotely, but have said, can I try it out? And if I feel like it's safe, I want to stay. And if it's not safe, I want to be able to utilize my note. And we're like, you know what? We want as many people here as possible. So, for the students. So absolutely, we'll take you,
So, Anne, I think I do want to add, just realistically, I don't know that we have a magic number, but there will, if, and Angie's making a prediction that we're not going to get any more requests. So that's wonderful. Mm-hmm. But if we do continue to get the requests at the rate that we've been getting them, we will hit a threshold where it will be really difficult for us to continue to provide in person in some spaces. So it just depends on the building right now. So in some buildings, we have more requests than others. Supervision, and it is going to, it's getting a little trickier at our high school, and, just having, so there will be a point, I think, if this continues, that we might hit that magic number. But again, like Angie said, I'm really hopeful that, once people are back, I only had to say to 1 or 2 kids today, pull your mask up over your nose, because my mask falls down all the time, and I kind of remember to pull it up. And, I think kids just kind of need a little reminder, and they did it right away. So I think once we're back, once we start doing the COVID testing, we'll have saliva testing. I'm going to talk about that here in a minute at the high school. So I think once people see all these different pieces of the pie, right? Our safety protocols, the testing, the symptomatic testing, the surveillance testing, just all the things that we're doing to keep the health and community of our staff and students high, it will hopefully invite more people back. So.
Okay, thanks. I have one more question for Angie, if you'll forgive me. How you had mentioned in our last meeting about support staff, and you mentioned you're different needs and things. What's the support staff situation like? Do you still think you need subs and people like that right now, or are you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so absolutely. So we have advertised trying to get subs, and so subs are the same thing. You know, we've had subs that have said that they're going to work, and then they also have had a little bit of anxiety and have backed out, and so we absolutely need subs. So if you are watching, or if you know people that can help out, it's not, I mean, it's going to be working with smaller groups of kids. So you know, the typical substitute teacher in a large classroom, you know, from like previous school years, it's not nearly going to be the stress level. It's going to be a very small group of kids working individually with students, and you know, just really helping students catch up. You know, they've lost some time, and helping them finish strong. So if you know of anybody, send them our way, please.
All righty. Thanks. Will do. That was all my questions.
Sure.
So anything else that you guys would like to, I know we didn't have Randy share anything about facilities, but we've talked about how we've set the classrooms up before. None of that has really changed. His team has been phenomenal in, you know, making sure we're doing walkthroughs with principals and making sure that the 6-foot distance is being adhered to in all of our spaces. So our buildings looked amazing this morning and, you know, throughout the day, and all the common areas. So every building I was in, I saw custodians cleaning and wiping, and the custodian at the early childhood, who's amazing, you know, like once they cleared all the students in, he shut all the doors and came in and electrostatic sprayed the airlock entryway. So they're really working hard too, to do their part to keep the buildings sanitized and clean as much as they can during the day. So, so I just wanted to give the facilities team a shout out too, even though Randy didn't share specifically, but you guys know they've been working a lot behind the scenes.
Jennifer, I just had a quick question. How many children are in the K-5 classrooms?
10 is kind of our threshold that we're meeting. Now we do have, I want to say maybe 2 to 3, Kim can correct me, instances where more than 10 students wanted to come back. And so I think we have one classroom that has 12 in an elementary. But we went out, we measured, you know, the teacher said, I'll take some more stuff out of my room to make space, because she really wanted to have all 12 of those students. So we have, I can think of a kindergarten class that has 12, a 5th grade class that has 11. But in most instances, well, all other instances, it is either 10 or less. So, I mean, we have some that have 4 or 5, we have some that have 7 or 8, but 10 was kind of the number that we were really trying to get to. And Kim can share, it looks like she wants to add.
No, just the same thing. I mean, we had a kindergarten classroom, like I mentioned at Wiley, that's a larger classroom. And so we were able to accommodate, I think what we're up to 12, I believe. But, you know, for the most part, they're under that.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Anything else that I know I kind of have very specific areas that I wanted to share with you today, but if there are other things that we didn't really hit about in person that you're thinking about or wondering about, just let us know or send us an email, and we'll get the answer back to you. Okay.
I'm going to just let you stay on the mic there, Jennifer, and go on with our COVID-19 update.
So now you guys have to hear me talk all. So this the rest of this is really, again, we're going to do this probably every study session here throughout the rest of the year. We'll have some kind of in-person update and something to share with you related to COVID, whether it's testing or you know, our data, you know, dashboard, or as you can see, things change really quickly. So right now I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the mitigations and, you know, how things change so fast over the weekend. And things will continue to change as our county and our Region 6 area, everybody follows the resurgence mitigations and does what they're supposed to do, because what we're doing is working, and we can see that in the positivity rate numbers in our community. So I'm going to be sharing kind of the technical things, but I know you guys are very responsible and read, and read the paper and follow a lot of the websites that I've been sharing. So this is partially for you, but it's partially for the people that are watching. I know some of our families may not be following all the websites and looking at some of the metrics and numbers that I'm going to share here in a minute. I do get a lot of questions from teachers. They want to know, what our protocols are going to be in terms of, when we have to pause learning and when we're going to do some of those things. So, so this is for the board. It's also for our public and for our teachers and our families that are watching. So I'm going to share my screen because I have a lot of tabs up here. I'm going to talk through this kind of a little quickly, but not too much. You guys can slow me down as you need to, because we've talked about this quite a bit, but because we finally have students in schools, it is really a big topic on everybody's minds, right? Knowing what the metrics are and what what do these tiers mean, and what is phase 4 and what is all this stuff. So let me get my screen up here. Okay, so as you guys saw, I'm gonna make my little window here bigger so I can see everybody. There we go. All right, so as you saw, John, am I sharing? John usually catches me if I'm not sharing. Am I sharing? You guys can see it? Okay. Okay, so this website has changed a little bit. I know I've shared this is the Illinois Department of Public Health website, and they've changed the layout a little just to reflect the changes related to where everyone is in the mitigations and in terms of the Restore Illinois plan. So as you can see, we're Region 6. I've shown you this map before, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time there. But I did want to let people know, I share these links a lot through the superintendent updates, so you can go back to one of the old updates and find this information too. But as you can see, we are in Region 6 and we're still in Tier 1. So today, kind of looking at the hospital bed number, as I've said before, there's several numbers that the Illinois Department of Public Health looks at. So because our hospital number is is still in the red, the first possible day that we could shift to phase 4 would be Friday. Is doing just what we wanted to do as a school district and as a community. We want to see that number continue to go down, and it is. So as of today, the Champaign County number, it's been, kind of going down a little bit, 7%, 6%. So today it was 5.5%, which is the lowest it's been since the end of October, which is fantastic. So I just want to encourage people to stay steadfast, don't give up. I know mask wearing is wearing all of us down, but it is working, and what we hope to happen is happening. So so that is, I just kind of wanted to share that. I really wanted to share this visual because I think it is a really good visual for us to look at. So part of what I get questions from the teachers is, when we have to move back and forth through these tiers, what are those magic numbers? So we've talked a lot about this 8% number here. So, we were in Tier 2 and 3. We basically jumped Tier 2. We were in Tier 3. We skipped Tier 2 because our positivity rate was really decreasing every day, and it has decreased, I want to say, for the 9th straight day. So the governor we just skipped Tier 2 basically, and we went right from Tier 3 to Tier 1. So that's where we are right now. So if you look at these little arrows, in order for us to move from Tier 1 to phase 4, is we have to have a positivity rate of less than 6.5%, which today our 7-day average was 5.5. So we're moving in that direction, which is really, really good. On the negative side, if you look at the arrows kind of going up, you can see the same thing. If we start seeing increases, then that will mean that we'll start going in the other direction, which is what we don't want. So right now we're really looking at this 6.5 number here. because that will help us move from where we are in tier 1 to phase 4. So what is phase 4? What does that mean? So we've talked about tier 1. I think everybody heard about tier 1. You know, a lot of people right here in this Zoom were happy about the tier 1 mitigations, because we can go back into restaurants and see some of our favorite, you know, back to some of our favorite places that we like to eat and visit. So that was a big discussion in the community. So I won't spend a lot of time there, because I think everyone heard about that piece through news and just from friends. So what does phase 4 mean? So basically not a big difference. So I think I probably made that too big. I'll make it a little smaller. Okay, so because we're a school district, I say this often, but we follow the Illinois Department of Public Health mitigations and guidance for schools. So this is basically for our community to kind of look at this phase 4. We're really watching it because we're hoping, you know, as we get deeper into phase 4, right now we still have that gathering of 50 people. So that kind of goes to what you were talking about, Peggy, a little bit with the us being able to do some things in person. We need to be able to have bigger groups. You know, I can't even bring our administrators all together in a meeting right now because there's more than 50 of us, you know, when we get together. So we're still Zooming for a lot of those meetings. Our buildings still have to have a lot of their staff meetings still have to be virtual because we still have that threshold there of that 50. So we're really, really wanting that number to get bigger so we can do some of those more in-person spread out things. Nobody here has asked me about graduation in a while, but you know, for us to be able to go back into the community and have things like in-person graduation and do some of those things, we need these phases to continue to move in the direction that they're moving. So this is just tells us a little bit about that phase 4. Okay, I did want to give just a brief little update about vaccines. I don't have a lot of new news. I did reach out to Julie Pride over the weekend because I've been getting a lot of questions from our teachers. So as you guys know, the county is the kind of keeper of the vaccines, and you know, they're charged with coming up with the rollout plan. And so the next stage is 1B. Educators fall within 1B with, you know, all of the other essential workers like police officers and firefighters and, you know, all those people. So our staff are very anxious to find out when will they be able to get the vaccine, and I'm anxious to hear that too. So based on my emails back and forth with Julie Pride over the weekend, as you guys maybe saw last week, or maybe it was a week before last, they opened it up to 75 and older to sign up for slots. So she shared with me that the next group, and she said it was okay to share this publicly because, you know, I told her I need to tell people keep asking me. She said the next group that they're going to open up vaccine slots to are going to be 65 and older. And then they're starting to work out the details on how they will get the educators in the school districts in Champaign County vaccinated. As you can imagine, that is a huge group of people. You know, just in our district, you know, we have over almost 900 staff members. Champaign has twice what we have. And then if you look at all the other districts around us as well. So right now, I think there are a lot of logistics that'll have to be worked out. Our nurses can help with that. So we'll continue to work with the public health department on what that might look like. But I do want to encourage our teachers. I am asking those questions, you know, as soon as we have more information about what that process will look like, I will definitely share it. So we're not going to keep it a secret. School-based health center has already volunteered that they will support with providing the vaccines as well. So we've just got to wait until we get the thumbs up from the public health department that we're ready to go. So once they're ready for us, we're going to be ready to go forward. I have gotten a lot of questions about IHSA sports and things like that. So I'm going to share a little about that. But before I switch to talking about IHSA and IESA, any other questions about metrics or, you know, any of that? I know a lot of you follow it here. Go ahead, Peggy.
There we go. Can I ask about testing? I mean, if
Sure.
there's.
Oh, I'm going to talk about testing here in a little bit.
Oh, okay. Then I'll.
You mean like the COVID testing?
Right, and then the U of I test pilot that you mentioned.
Oh yeah, I'm going to talk about that. Yep.
Great, thank
Yep.
you.
So any other specific county metrics or things like that? Okay, well, I am going to go ahead and shift to, I do want to share a little bit about sports because I know there are a lot of eager parents out there. You know, we had several students in this low risk category here that didn't get a season in the spring. You know, our track and baseball and a lot of those young people didn't get to have their season at all. So everybody is kind of anxiously awaiting what is IHSA going to do. So right now, as you know, we have several. I'm going to go here to this kind of next category here. So we have 3 categories: lower risk, medium risk, and high risk. For our district, we've talked about this before. Winter sports, our low risk sport is boys swim and dive. So they have been given the clearance to start immediately. And actually, we worked with the Park District over the weekend. Mr. Waller did with Tim Bartlett and Corky, and the boys are starting their practices tomorrow. So we're really excited about that. That is happening super fast. Next, the plan is to get the wrestlers going because they are considered high risk. So we've got these categories here. So wrestling and girls and boys basketball are considered high risk sports. So they can start doing some scrimmaging. If you remember our guidelines we shared with you way back in August, you know, about mask wearing, and all the athletes have to go through a symptom screening when they come. They have a form that they have to fill out. So we'll go back to all those protocols as soon as we're given the okay. So basketball and wrestling will get started here. No competitive play, so they won't be playing games against other teams yet. Right now it is just scrimmaging and practicing. However, I spoke with Mr. Waller, our athletic director at the high school, and there is a meeting scheduled next week with IHSA and the powers that be, that hopefully there will be a schedule for when those groups might begin to actually play games or some kind of conference schedule. Now, just keep in mind, one of the other reasons I showed you those categories is we have to be in phase 4 for that to happen. So right now, you know, as we are in tier 1, I think that's great. But if our number continues to go down and we're able to get into that phase 4 category, then we'll be able to have more conversations about the young people kind of playing in a more organized, actual playing games. We're also waiting, again, this low risk group from the spring. Our baseball players, softball, tennis, track and field did not get a season. So they're already in discussions around when they would be able to start those spring sports and extending the season. So those, you know, we've got seniors. I can think of a young man at our high school who, even as a junior, was being looked at by several Division I colleges for track. He needs to have his season so he can, you know, so things can move forward for him, as well as some of our other young people at the high school. So he's just kind of in my mind right now. But so as soon as we know more, we'll again, Mr. Waller will put together a kind of a one-page guidance, or we'll put together one of those kind of guidance packets and share them with board. We'll share them with parents. And same thing for, I was going to share the IHSA website is really good. They've done a really good job of kind of putting, you know, where the state is. If you look at this map, you can see where every single one of our regions are and what that means for the students looking forward to having their conference play. IESA, the Illinois Education Association for the middle school students. Right now, the 2 sports that we're looking at for them are volleyball and some basketball. So we're waiting for a little more guidance there. The middle school is going to move forward with volleyball as a medium risk sport. So they're going to move forward with starting to plan volleyball practices for the middle school students. So I know I'm spending a lot of time talking about this, but we have had our young people have missed out on so much. And the academics is huge, but they've missed out on this part of their lives too. And so it's really encouraging to be able to have the ability to, especially our young people looking forward to going to college, and the way that they're going to get there is through some of these other avenues. So we're just really happy that we're moving in the right direction. I can't say that we're, completely there yet, but I think it is just positive news that we're even having the conversations at this point. So any questions about that? And then Peggy's right, I am going to shift to talking about testing here. Okay, so as we know more, we'll continue to share more with the community and with the board. So next, I want to talk a little bit about, one, I want to give you an update on the drive-through testing. So let me see if I can make that a little bigger. So our drive-through testing is moving right along. We're making lots of plans, and I just want to give you a brief update about the drive-through testing and talk a little bit more about the shield testing, since that's more new. We hired last week 6 new staff members. Most of them came through our adult ed CNA program, and they're going to be helping us as part-time healthcare professionals to help us do some of this antigen testing. Who was it? Brenda asked earlier about nurses. So our nurses are going to be focused on the symptomatic testing of students and staff during the day. So we need them to be in the buildings with our young people and our teachers, so they can test the people who feel like they're having symptoms through the day. We started that today. So our tests arrived last week. We got 7 cases full of rapid antigen tests. So we have quite a few to get us through for quite some time. And our nurses were trained. They have all their PPE. They've been fitted. They have everything they need. We've got all our protocols and forms and documents in place. Everything's set up with the Illinois Department of Public Health to start recording our tests. So that was ready to go today. So our nurses are ready for that. The testing site is going to be open Monday through Friday. I don't know if you've driven down Ray Street and seen the big COVID testing sign. We have a sign on Washington Street too. I'm going to show you the map here in a second. Oh, actually, I could probably just show you the map now. So here's our map of kind of the flow of how testing is going to work. We're going to, I think I mentioned that here, we're going to kind of reroute Tiger Lane a little bit and move it in a different direction. Monday through Friday, people will enter the testing site from Washington Street. They'll come into Tiger Lane, very much like what happens at Carl and Marketplace Mall and places like that. Someone will come out to the car. We have everything in kind of a little baggie with an instruction sheet. The cotton swab. We've got a test tube that goes in. So one of our testing professionals will bring this bag out to the car, and the directions are there with pictures and kind of a step-by-step, and then there are pictures on the back. People will collect this is for adults, remember, not for students. So this is our adult surveillance. The adults will swab themselves, put their cotton swab back into the testing tube, hand it back out to the testing professional, and then the testing professional is going to go in. We're using the shop area, so you wouldn't recognize the shop if you went in there now because it looks like a little mini lab. But so we're using the shop area as our testing site, and our testing professional will go back into the testing area and set that test on a timer for 15 minutes. And then we will notify staff that are positive as soon as we get that result within about 20 minutes after they've tested. And then our staff that are not negative will also get will also get an email from us. So the site will run Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. We'll have about 165 slots a day. So in a week, we'll be able to test 825 staff members. We have more people than that. We have about 900, but not everybody's going to sign up every week. So, but we will have the ability, if most people want to test, they can come through this line and go through a rapid test. So questions about the drive-through testing? Okay, so then I'm gonna stop sharing and talk a little bit about the shield testing. So I shared with the board via email, this, first conversation we're having about this, publicly. So the board received an email as soon as I found out about this opportunity last week. We had a very early conversation with the Urbana High School administration. They shared the news with staff. And since then, things have moved very quickly. So John and I were in a meeting with some of the U of I Shield CU staff last week. Then I had another meeting with the Shield CU staff. So 2 meetings last week. We have another meeting tomorrow. Tori, I have to give Tori a shout out. She organized a visit for John and I. Yesterday, we were able to go and see the Cersei shield testing site on campus right there off of Lincoln by Allen Hall. It was really informative for us. I think we learned a lot. And then we took that information back to the high school today, and we did some more logistic planning with Randy and the team, and with the high school team. So I feel like we've got a pretty good plan of kind of what this is going to look like. So I'll share preliminarily. I don't have any of it written up yet, but this, are kind of our initial plans. We have a meeting tomorrow afternoon with some of the members of the Shield CU team. We'll share kind of our thoughts and get some more logistics hammered out. So what this will look like is our students who are coming in person and our students who are remote at the high school will have an opportunity to participate in saliva testing once a week, if they so choose. So I think the way I initially mentioned it maybe to the board is that we would break the students out by grade level, but we've since thought about that, and we've decided we're going to keep their alpha groups because the kids are kind of really familiar with that. They know what their alpha group is. So Monday would be A through D, Tuesday is E through LE, Thursday LI through RE, and then Friday RI through Z. And then Wednesday would be for our remote students. And then for staff, same thing. We have, almost 100 and let me look at my sheet. We have 197 people who work at the high school. And that includes teachers, custodians, TAs, basically everybody who works at UHS. So we'll take that 197 and we'll break them down by departments. So like Monday might be math and foreign language, and Tuesday might be science and PE. Thursday would be English and fine arts, or, kind of taking all the departments and breaking them down, a large department with a smaller department. And then again, we would keep Wednesday for any of our staff that are working remotely who don't want to come and be around a large crowd of people. So what this will look like is at 1 o'clock every day. So right now, Carol mentioned our students leave the high school. On their way out, they grab their grab and go lunch. They'll grab their grab and go lunch. If it's Monday, then I'm an A through D student. I know I can go down and be shield tested. We're going to use the small gym, which is already set up for the learning lab. So when John and I went over and visited the Cersei site, it just kind of clicked for, wow, we've already got this space set up in the small gym. We've got tables and chairs. And so the synchronous learning ends at 1. So as soon as those students end, then that basically will turn into our shield testing site. If whatever your day is, you come down to the small gym. We'll have I don't know if you've ever been in one. I should have probably put a picture up. We weren't allowed to take real pictures of people's, but we could take pictures of some of the stuff. So they're they're very careful about photography and cell phone use and things like that in the site, but we were able to take a few pictures that didn't include people. So anyway, there all these X's kind of on the floor. People know you go and stand at an X and you kind of do, do what you need to do. So what our students would do is we're going to work with the U of I. At the U of I, they use an app. So we're not using an app. We're going to use more of a web-based portal, more of a QR code kind of model. So the test tubes look like this, and they will have little labels that are basically a QR code label. And so our students, once they sign the permission slip, so again, just like we have to have consent to do the antigen testing, we definitely have to have consent to do this. So our students who sign the consent form will get a sticker put on the back of their ID, same thing for staff. So when they come down to the shield testing site, which will basically be our small gym, somebody will have a scanner, kind of just like they scan at the grocery store, right? So somebody will scan this, which will already have a QR code on it, and scan the ID. So then that matches the test tube with the person. We don't have to do any of this unique student ID stuff and come up with new numbers. It's just going to basically be this QR code here goes with the QR code on the back of the ID, whether it's a staff member or a student. And that has a label on it. So students will be given this when they walk in the door, that scan, 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 and then they'll be given a funnel. And the funnel fits right here. And then they go walk to a space, a predetermined space that we're going to have already set up in the small gym. They'll go stand at an X. I haven't done it yet because I'm not affiliated with the U of I, but we've been told it takes about 1 to 3 minutes to gather enough saliva to be able to fill the tube about halfway up. We'll mark the tube so the students can see. They have to be careful not to put it, too many bubbles. John's going to put together a phenomenal video that is going to show the students just what they need to do and how to do it. I don't know if you'll be providing the saliva, but I think he'll be providing the step-by-step directions.
I'm pretty sure no one wants to see me spitting in anything.
No. John and I got to see a lot of that yesterday. You wouldn't believe, but it was good research. So the students will have their tube, their funnel, and then they'll go take care of what they need to do. And then we've been told, and we watched this, it really did take people only just a couple minutes. So they won't be down there for like 30 minutes doing this. So then we will have bio bag containers kind of spread out across. We already have entered into a contract with Stericycle for our current bio bags, because that's a requirement for Illinois Department of Public Health. We have to have a company come and pick up the red bags, kind of like what you're used to seeing at the hospital. So we have red bag pickup set up for every school-based health center, our testing site. So we'll have the red bags, we'll have the boxes, the funnel goes in the box. The student then kind of closes up their tube, or the staff member. We have designated an exit area. They walk over. What kind of happens is, just to make sure, there are all kinds of rules about you can't eat, you can't drink, you can't chew any gum an hour before. And so if the person checking the student out, they kind of have this little light. It looks like a little UV light, flashlight. They look at the tube to make sure there are no food particles, because if there are food particles, then of course the sample is no good. So they look at it, they tell the student, yeah, you have too many bubbles in there, you need to go back and keep trying, or they'll look at it and say, great. And so then the student or the staff member there are going to be these tubs that we're going to get with test trays, kind of like test tube trays. So our people will never touch this, only the student or the staff member, because we don't want anybody else touching it after, people have kind of dribbled over it. They put it in the test tube and then they exit the room, basically. So there's no touching by our staff. And then at the end of this process, one of Randy's, our people from facilities will go through, they'll collect all the however many test tubes we have for the day. And then we will make a delivery to the lab at Vet Med every day. And that is how our samples will get to the university's lab section. The whole process should take for a student or staff member, I'd say 7 to 10 minutes. John, what do you think? I think that's kind of what we are envisioning. You know, we don't want it to take too long because the kids have to get out, get to their buses. You know, we didn't have a lot of students coming on MTD today because it was just the 9th graders, but eventually there will be, you know, a lot of students needing to get out to the bus, the yellow bus, parents waiting. So we're trying to get this down to about less than a 10-minute process. And I think we can kind of make that happen. So anything I forgot, John, you can think of?
I think that's it. And then there's kind of the biohazard bags that'll get taken away. So everything that's not the test tube gets thrown in a bag and gets taken and incinerated.
Not every day. So we would keep our, so what they do at the U of I, and we got to see this, is they have several of these bags set up. They sanitize the outside of the bag, like spray it with a special solution similar to what we use in our district. And then somebody at night, at the end of the day, comes around and kind of closes the bag up so it doesn't sit out all night. And so that's what we would do. We would kind of tie up all of our bags because it'll take a while for us to fill up a bag based on the box size that we're going to have. So we may not have a pickup for 3 weeks. So, you know, those items like the funnel tubes and all those things will be in there, but closed, you know, when they're not in use. So we still have some logistics. I think today we met with the high school admin team. We had a couple questions like, oh yeah, we need to ask them about that. But I think we're considering this just came to us like last Wednesday. We've made a lot of progress in a really short time to get the logistics of this kind of set up. So it will be nice because it won't involve as much staff or people capacity as the drive-through is going to involve a lot of people because we're sending emails, we're doing the checks, we've got people timing, we've got a lot of stations, but this is going to pretty much run itself. We might have 3 staff members down there, you know, helping with scanning, supervising. 3 or 4 people is basically all it will take for us to be able to do this. I didn't say this at the beginning, but basically the only cost to us will be paying for the bio pickup, having our person basically drop the you know, he and our person is basically going to just kind of do that as their last thing they do on the way home, is to drop our test tubes off at the Vet Med at the U of I. I can't think of, they're going to provide the tubes, the funnels, the labels. So most of it will be covered through the Rockefeller grant I mentioned to you guys in the email. So this is through a special grant. I forgot to say that at the beginning. So I'm really grateful and thankful. The U of I is using this kind of as a learning opportunity for them too, right? This is their, you know, they're really committed to bringing the shield testing to the bigger community. So they've kind of got this group, the Shield CU group. You know, they really kind of, how are we going to bring shield testing to Champaign-Urbana and to, you know, outside of Champaign-Urbana. So, you know, I don't want to say we're being guinea pigs, but we kind of are, but it's okay because we're doing it for free. And so we, you know, they're going to learn a lot from us. The only requirement for us is they are going to meet with us. Did they say weekly, John, or monthly? I think a weekly meeting maybe.
Yeah, it was pretty regular.
Yeah. So they want to meet with us weekly to find out, like, you know, what are the ahas that we're seeing. And so I think this will be kind of an operational research point for them. We were given a choice on what school we wanted to provide this for. So I was kind of back and forth. You know, I had one of the larger elementaries was an area I was thinking of, but, you know, when we think about one, it's the saliva gathering is not easy. And so our older students will be able to do that. So they're offering this to an Urbana school and a Champaign school and 2 schools in the Chicago public school system. So literally only 4 schools across the state will be in this pilot through the Rockefeller project. So, they were kind of happy because Unit 4, I think the last I heard, Unit 4 was thinking of doing an elementary school, which is going to be kind of tricky because, with the younger students, teaching them how to do this. But they have a couple elementary schools that really need, for the community, they really want to offer this. So I think the U of I will get to learn a lot because we'll have high school students and they'll have younger students. So they'll get to kind of see, what are the logistical concerns or issues that we're both having. So we'll meet with them regularly, and they're going to provide everything for us. We're, of course, this is involving a lot of manpower on our part to plan and get everything up and going. But basically, that's it. And so I think the ongoing conversation with the bigger SHIELD group is, they even said to us, you think you could do this more than once a week? Because we really feel like twice a week testing is better for surveillance purposes, and I thought, oh my gosh, let's just do once a week now, and then we can kind of build up and see what we can manage once we get it going. So for right now, we are just going to look at once a week and then go from there. So questions?
So, and Jennifer, you said that this is not mandatory the way it is at the U of I. This is, a student could do it one week, but not the next week, and a staff person similarly.
Yes, absolutely. And staff and students will have to sign. We have our own consent form that we work with our attorneys. And so we're not having to use a U of I form. They're happy to use our form. We just have to add, right now, our form just says district COVID-19 testing. So I'm just going to add, for the high school students, I'm going to add and SHIELD, saliva testing to that, every space on that waiver for the students.
Yeah.
So staff members will have to have a signed waiver. Right now, I showed you, in one of those tabs I had open, we're doing the waiver form for our staff as kind of an informed consent form, as an informed consent through a Google form that we're using. But for the U of I's purposes, they will need a signed, we have a staff waiver form that I created with Dennis that they will have to sign, and we'll have to make sure that anybody involved will have to have that. It's not mandatory. The one thing I think that will be tricky is, we talked to them about our remote students maybe doing a drive up, and they just do not feel like the protocols and the way this needs to work will work with the drive up process. So our remote families, students will have to, get out of the car, walk into the building, and go through the cycle like the in-person students will.
Gotcha.
But I think we'll do it in a way, we talked about this today, we'll do it in a way where there is as few touch points as possible. Like we'll prop the doors, we'll make sure that, because this is just a very short window in time, they can walk in, not have to touch anything, basically. The only thing they're going to touch is the tube that they hold.
Yeah.
So they won't be touching anything to get in and out of the building. So that might make families feel a little more comfortable with having their all remote students come and participate in this. So,
yeah. And how do you see this interfacing with the surveillance testing, that you talked about, the earlier one? You think just some staff will only do one and not the other? Or?
So we are going to encourage the high school to do this. And if they want to do a rapid test, like say they, they feel like they've been exposed or something like that, they could always go down and get a rapid test if they were feeling sick through the day or something. But even though I'm assigned on Monday, if something happened over the weekend and I want to go down and do a saliva test, if I'm a staff member, I can go down and just do a test. So nobody's going to say, hey, you were down here on Friday, you can't come back on Monday. Gotcha. So I don't think they're going to be monitoring that way. So our high school staff will kind of be pulled out of the drive-through, which is going to help us open up a lot more slots, which will be helpful. But they will participate more so in the, fully in the saliva, and only do the rapid testing as needed, if they needed to have a rapid test or something during the day.
Okay. And just last question, did the U of I promise that this will provide this all semester or quarter?
Yes.
All semester?
I've asked that question, and they said that they're interested in doing this for the rest of the semester.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you.
Yep. And you look like you were going to ask me a question?
Oh, I just wanted to clarify for myself and for people listening. So the first test that we knew about, the nasal swab, that's immediate. The results are immediate.
Within 15 minutes, yes.
Within 15 minutes. And the spit test, the saliva test, like at the U of I know the U of I usually can get you results within 24 hours if you do it early enough in the day. So what did you say again? The
Yes,
results
I
are forthcoming?
didn't. I didn't mention that. So I'm glad you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I
So,
thought I just
yes,
forgot it.
that is, as we were meeting today, that's one of the logistics that we have to find out from them. We know it is pretty a really quick turnaround. So because we're not using the app, we will we have to work out how we get that positive notification, because we want to be able to make sure if we have a staff member who tests positive and a student, but either one, that we find out that evening if we can, and who gets that email, so we can, have somebody monitoring that when those positive results come back, if we have any, that we can get to the staff member and say, hey, you're positive, you're going to have to quarantine. And for the student, that we can get to the parent and say, hey, your kid was positive, they need to stay home tomorrow. So that is a detail that we're going to talk through with the U of I tomorrow when we meet with them. But that is that we're going to have to do kind of a student upload and a staff upload of all the, once we get the consent forms in. And so now we just have to work out when that positive result comes back, because I mean, they're not going to get these, they're not even going to get our test tubes until about 2:30. So we're already at the end of the school day. So when the results come back, it will be evening. So we will have to kind of have a plan for who gets that email and how we get that information to either the parent or the staff member, because it will happen at night. Or we might be catching people as they come in the door in the morning and say, nope, turn around, you got to, if we're not able to catch them in the evening. So.
Okay, well, I mean, it's still great. That is fantastic news. I know it's painless and it's quick and it's easy. And I just think it doesn't prevent it, but to me, it's peace of mind, because you can see real-time results, and then how to, it just kind of keeps it in your mind to stay safe as you're going through your day and your week, because you're going to be tested and you don't want to put yourself at risk or anybody else at risk. So it's just it's got a knock-on effect. But I'm so grateful that we've got this. This is fantastic news. Thank you.
And I think another big piece too that you didn't mention is the fact that there are a lot of people walking around that are asymptomatic that don't. And I think that is the positive, that's one of the positive outcomes of even doing the rapid testing, because it does catch those people. When we watched the Muhammad drive-through, I think they had 500 people, and I don't think they mind us saying this, John, but I'm going to say it anyway. So they had about 500 people who came through their drive-through that day, and I think they caught 3 positive,
Wow.
three people who were asymptomatic who would have gone to school that day and not known they were positive. So that is one of the big benefits too, is in terms of, one, we catch those asymptomatic people. Another reason why we chose to do this at the high school is, you guys know, all of you have had high school kids. The high school kids are out and they're with one another outside of school. A lot of them have jobs. They're in the community more. They're involved in they will be doing sports here soon. And the high school kids tend to be our highest flyers in terms of our positive COVID results that we've been getting across the district. As Angie's been monitoring this, we've had positive adults and a lot of positive high school kids. And that has been outside of school. But again, that has been the second, I'd say, biggest group of people that we find out about, who have, tested positive over these many, many months. So that was another reason why we chose. And the high school kids tend to show symptoms. The younger kids tend to be asymptomatic and often don't have a lot of COVID-like symptoms, but the older kids do. So this is just another way for us to and the fact that we have 1,200 kids at our high school. If we even get half of them coming through and doing COVID testing, that's 600 more people that we know that are helping us keep our positive transmission rates in the Urbana community lower, because we're catching them. So.
And then I am assuming that, you're going to be hearing the data. I don't know how the data could help us in the future, but is the U of I going to share information with us as they're doing it?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. That's great.
Yep.
Wow, thank you so much for hitting the ground running on that. This is just the good news on top of good news.
Yeah, it has been exciting. I mean, it was kind of unbelievable when I first got the email. I was in team with most of these guys, and I kind of read the email and thought, oh my goodness. As I was in the middle of planning all the antigen testing, I thought, wow, one more thing, but it's a good thing. That's one more thing. So we're kind of happy to take it on. So.
Thanks. Any other questions for Jennifer or anybody else? Oh, sorry. Somebody gonna go? No?
I thought I saw, okay.
Okay.
All right. That
Well,
was a
thank
lot.
you. No, that's all good. It was all good stuff tonight. Thank you. Okay, well, I guess we're done with our administrative reports for the evening, so I will move on to action items. 11.0, we'll start with 11.1. We have the minutes for the December 15th business meeting and the January 5th, 2021 study session to approve. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes? Oh, looks like.
So moved.
It's consent. This is a consent all together.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. It is.
Yes.
Sorry, I was looking ahead too far. Okay, there's the first one. Sorry. 11.2 is bills and checks. We have the Ed Fund bills this month in the amount of $965,000. Operations and maintenance in the amount of $350,000. Bond and interest fund bills in the amount of $4.4 million. Transportation fund bills in the amount of $20,000. Working cash bonds, $4,000. Tort in the amount of $25,000. Payroll, salary, and benefits in the amount of $4.1 million. 4.2, it's rounded up. Urbana adult education, the amount of $126,000. And that's it for our bills and checks. Okay, moving on. Then we have the approval of various personnel items requested. And 11.4 is an interfund loans, two interfund loans requested on December 15th. But it says the memo were not listed on the December 15th agenda, but the first loan amount was in the amount of 1.2 million from transportation going to working cash. And the second loan was in the amount of 500,000 going from operations and maintenance to working cash.
Those are actually repayments.
Repayments, sorry.
Repayments.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I missed that word there. The following interfund loan repayments were requested. Thank you, John. And last item on this list was the resolution authorizing and directing the sale or disposal of personal property in accordance with school code. And I believe it was the school weeding log for Urbana early childhood. So now.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
I don't know who said it first, Brenda or Peggy. Moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Ruth Ann.
Member Carter,
Yes.
Member Demmett,
Yes.
Member Patton,
Yes.
Member Pulaski,
Yes.
Member Fisher votes yes, Vice President Exum,
Yes.
and President Hall.
Yes, motion passes. Now moving on to individual action items. Thank you, 12.0. We're going to list our gifts, and we were pleased to say we have quite a few. And as always, please forgive me if I mispronounce your name. The first coming from the Pankow family of Urbana, who donated a 4x4 Carlo Lamberti Sonata violin with a bow and case to the school district. Secondly, we've got a gift from Hoiwan and Mei Liu, from California, who donated $30,000 to the Liu Family Trust Scholarship Fund and $20,000 to the Thomas Paine School in honor of their retired teacher, Kay Grabo. We also have from the Urbana Adult Education Center receiving a donation from Sherry and Michael Langendorf in the amount of $100, from Leslie Philman, $100, Marlon Livingston, $250, and an anonymous donation of $250. The Dr. Evelyn Underwood and Bishop King J. Underwood, they both donated $100 to the Evelyn Burnett Underwood Instrumental Music Assistance Program. Nancy McElwin of Urbana donated $100 to Urbana Middle School to help with holiday gift baskets for veterans at Champaign County Nursing Home. Busey Bank of Urbana donated $400 to help sponsor Urbana Middle School Great Art Doors program. Kanita Fay of Urbana donated $100 to the Karen DeBush Trust account. And lastly, Tom and Marianne Brown of Urbana donated $8,000 to the food pantry, I think care of Lucia Maldonado, $1,500 to the Urbana Early Childhood School Sensory Garden, and $500 to the Early Childhood Books for Students Home Libraries. So that's our first item, and I'd like to receive a motion to approve these gifts and send thank you notes.
Move acceptance of the gifts and to send thank you notes.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Member Carter,
Yes.
Member Demmett,
Yes.
Member Patton,
Yes.
Member Pulaski,
Yes.
Member Fisher votes yes, Vice President Exum,
Yes.
and President Hall.
Yes, motion passes, and thank you to all of our donors. 12.2, a resolution abating the tax heretofore levied for the year 2020 to pay debt service on the taxable general obligation bonds of an alternative revenue source, Series 2010 of School District 116, Champaign County. This was, I don't remember when we discussed this last, but I don't know if there's any questions remaining before we vote on it. Carol, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, this is an annual resolution. These next two, actually, this one and the following one are annual resolutions we do that basically just certifies that we have the pledged sales tax revenues on hand sufficient to pay our debt service on these bonds. It's just required. So we don't do, the county clerk will know to not do a levy. The levies aren't necessary because we have the sales tax on hand. So that's the reason for 12.2 and 12.3.
All righty. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve item 12.2's resolution?
So moved.
Second.
But I do have a question before we go to a vote. I was just curious, how far down are our sales tax receipts from last year?
Probably they've been down about 20%. I'd say total of about 300,000 maybe so far. We still have enough because we're required to make sure that we have, when we do our bonds. So we definitely have enough on hand to make this. But yeah, it is down a little bit. I'm thinking it's not been as bad lately, but it's still down from what it was over the summer. It was really down right after COVID hit. So I think depends on how with the students being gone. I think that's impacted it a little bit as well.
Yeah, hopefully Costco will help too. All right, thanks.
Thanks for the question. So we have a motion and we have a second. Now we just need a roll call, please.
Member Carter,
Yes.
Member Demmett,
Yes.
Member Patton,
Yes.
Pulaski,
Yes.
Member Fisher votes yes, Vice President Exum,
Yes.
and President Hall.
Yes, motion passes. 12.3 is the second resolution abating the tax levied for year 2020 to pay debt service on general obligation funds, Series 2011 for School District 116. Again, if there's any questions, now's the time to ask, but otherwise I'll need a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Member Carter,
Yes.
Member Demmett,
Yes.
Member Patton,
Yes.
Member Pulaski,
Yes.
Member Fisher votes yes, Vice President Exum,
Yes.
President Hall.
Yes, motion passes. Okay, 12.4 is the resolution and agreement authorizing the one-year extension to the current intergovernmental agreement between the Urbana Park District and Urbana School District for the operation of the Indoor Aquatic Center. Do we have questions, or do you want me to put the motion on the floor?
Motion first.
Motion first, please.
I move acceptance of the extension.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Do we have any last questions before we vote to approve?
Just want to clarify to the public, this is basically a 1-year extension with no major changes over our prior contract.
Right. Thanks for that, Paul. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do I have a roll call, please?
Member Carter,
Yes.
Member Demmett,
Yes.
Member Patton,
Yes.
Member Pulaski,
Yes.
Member Fisher votes yes, Vice President Exum,
Yes.
and President Hall.
Yes, motion passes. And lastly, 12.5, the amendment to our food service contract with Arbor Foods for the year 2020 and 2021. Let you explain anything we need to know further about that, Carol.
Sure, thank you. As you all know, our contractors have struggled with COVID as well as the school district has. We've come to you before with amendments for first student. And unlike first student and ESS and our other contractors, we're not paying a monthly amount to Arbor. It's all based on a meal rate, based on the number of meals that they serve. That's what they bid. And when they bid on our contract a little over a year ago, they bid on having about 5,000 meals a day. We were doing suppers, snacks, lunches, breakfasts. We had a lot of meals happening. We are down to about 500 meals that we're serving now a day. So they're covering a lot of those emergency costs, a lot of the packaging that they've had to do now that we weren't doing before. We're individually packaging all of those meals. Not only we're not just putting them on a plate for kids when we serve them, we're packaging every individual component of that meal in its own little package in the bag, and sometimes in boxes if we're doing the 7-day meals. So a lot of extra packaging going on. They've cut back their staff quite a bit over the summer when COVID hit, just because the meals had gone down, but there's still a number of permanent staff that we have, our manager and other staff that they're paying based on these meals being so much less. So the cost for them per meal has gone up drastically. So we've been negotiating. They came to me probably in September with about a 94-cent increase request for both lunch and breakfast. So we spent the last 4 months basically going back and forth trying to come to something that I would agree to. We do have additional. The only reason we finally came down to agreement on this is after talking with. There's a lot of negotiation going on, a lot of investigating I've been doing in the background, and this has been very common across the state. ISBE sent out probably in August is when it started. They sent out a notice to all schools saying they were going to allow these emergency amendments for contractors, food service contractors, because they knew that the costs were going to be increasing for them. So most schools signed off on this early on and have been paying it. And some of us did a lot of questioning. So it took a little longer, and I think it's helped us out. We got down to about a 50-cent increase on lunch and 25 cents on breakfast. And how we're paying for that is what I came down to is because once COVID hit, the National School Lunch Program, or USDA, allowed us to have additional reimbursement. So normally under National School Lunch, we had a set rate, but with us being on the summer food service program, it allowed us additional reimbursement ever since COVID hit. So we are getting an additional 49 cents for lunch and additional 7 cents on breakfast through December. And then in 2021, it's going up even more. It went up to 65 cents for lunch. So we are still covering our costs. And I basically thought it made sense to me more to hand over and give them some additional reimbursement because I knew we had that covered with our meal rate reimbursement. So that's kind of, we looked at all the alternatives of what happens if we don't do this, and none of those alternatives were good as far as, with the contractors. So I'm recommending, I think this is a fair increase, and will get us through the year, and then we'll see what happens for next year. Hopefully we'll be through COVID and things will get back to normal. So, so I'm recommending the 50 cents on lunch and 25 cents on breakfast. And that is going back retroactively to August. It's covering this school year, so it will be in effect for the entire school year.
I move the administrative recommendation.
I second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. Do we have any last questions about that? All right, well, let's take a vote then, please.
Member Carter?
Yes.
Member Demmett?
Yes.
Member Patton?
Yes.
Member Pulaski?
Yes.
Member Fisher votes yes. Vice President Exum?
Yes.
President Hall?
Yes, motion passes. And I'm really glad that our district can still continue to provide meals for all of our kids, and especially, with COVID, everybody's struggling. So I'm just really glad that you were able to reach an agreement, Carol. Thanks a lot for doing that. Okay, 13.0 on the agenda is a call for future special or executive meetings, of which I've not heard of any. I don't think we have any planned. Nope, Lori's shaking her head. All right, next up, superintendent's report. You're back on again, Jennifer.
Okay, this is a short one today. So get in here. So I started, as you guys know, if I know you all read the updates. We've started a campaign, #StrongerTogether116. Cameron shared at our last meeting some of the changes and information on the website. And so we have made these posters that we are sharing with our community. So I started delivering them today. We have them in English, Spanish, and French. I don't know if you've driven down Main Street or been in downtown Urbana, but a lot of our businesses still have the big U signs up that we gave them last year for homecoming. So we're going to go around at some point when everybody opens back up around us and make sure they all have one of our Stronger, Safer, Smarter posters. That they can take down their old one and hang this up. We have them here for board members if you guys would like to have one as well. But this is our new campaign, and we're really, really trying to promote the protect yourself, protect others, and protect Urbana. I want to recognize a couple of our seniors who are part of the Senior Winter Guard. Mackenzie Gaines and Brittany Alvarado competed over the weekend. So I want to congratulate them both, but we actually definitely want to congratulate Brittany Alvarado because she won the event over the weekend. So our Winter Guard is phenomenal. The coach did share with us with the tiered mitigations changing. They're really hoping to compete in a virtual performance on January 30th. So if we're able to get them together and have some practices, we'll keep you posted about that. So congratulations to Mackenzie and Brittany. Carol has pretty much talked about meals. I don't think I need to mention that, but we have been sharing this out. We have flyers. We've had it on the website. We've been putting flyers as people picked up last week. They got it on Tuesday and Thursday. So we're really trying to make sure people know that just because we move to 1 day a week, we're not giving away less food. They're still getting 7 days of breakfasts and lunches. So this is something we've been kind of promoting with Urbana Park District. I know while the Park District has not been able to offer a lot of their in-person programming, they've been doing some very creative virtual activities for students. So here are two that we've been trying to promote a lot of their things on the websites just to give our families other activities that they can utilize with their teenagers and their young people that are at home. And last but not least, as you know, this was Martin Luther King weekend, and while it was a very different countywide and community celebration weekend, we do still have some honorees that we want to recognize. We want to recognize our Martin Luther King Living the Dream Scholarship recipients. First, Devangana Rana. You guys all know we've had Devangana on a spotlight before. So she was recognized as the winner of the President's Award for Outstanding Achievement, honoring Pastor Claude Shelby, who of course helped organize and start the Living the Dream Scholarship Program that is held at Cranert. So congratulations to Devangana. Frankie Mabel was the alternate, so congratulations to Frankie. There were several Central and Centennial honorees for the Herb Stevens Award, and then the Willie Somerville Award didn't come to a Urbana student, but went to a student at Central, Kylie Rogers. So I'm going to mention it just because it's Willie Somerville's award, so I like to kind of say that out loud. I do also want to recognize for the countywide celebration, a couple of our community partners and community people. Ricardo Diaz and her Urbana, Urbana parent and Urbana community partner and community member was recognized for the award recipient of the James Burgess Susan Freiberg Humanitarian Award. Karen Sims, who we work with in our district all the time through her trauma work and her mental health work. She also is present. She usually presents at Winter Institute. I shouldn't say that she is this year, but she's working with the Dr. Williams staff right now. She was recognized as the Doris Hoskins Prestigious Community Service Award at the countywide celebration. Reverend Willie Comer, which many of us know has helped organize the midnight basketball in the community for many, many years, was recognized with the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Outstanding Achievement Award. And then Jennifer Roscoe from Channel 3, WCIA, was recognized with the honorary Martin Luther King Countywide Committee Member Award recipient. So congratulations to our students as well as our community partners. That's it for me.
Thank you. I watched the video version of the MLK celebration. It was, I was sad that we didn't get to hear the music live, and we didn't get to see Terry Napper up on the stage directing his choir, because that always, is like the highlight for me. But it was still a really great, I thought it was a great presentation. And I thought that the speaker, Reverend Barber, did a really powerful speech. It was quite timely, and it was a call to action. I think we've all been sitting at home with COVID locked up so long that we've forgotten that we still have lots of work to do. So thank you for presenting that. Congratulations to everybody who won an award. Are there any board reports for tonight?
I want to offer just a couple of quick comments that, this is 2 months in a row, 2 meetings in a row, really, that we've accepted donations in the 5 and 6 figure range. And if you put the family donation, the Lou family donation together, it's 2 donations in 6 figures. And I just want to, from our community, be it California and they grew up in the schools, or be it that people live in this community. But I just really want to thank the community for the support of public education that this shows. And then the other piece of this is we've had a lot of comments tonight about food service spread out throughout. And I think it's really important that we recognize that we're a major provider of food to families that are in need as we're working our way through COVID. And I don't want to underestimate the value that the district through its contractors are providing to our community.
Thanks, John. And I was going to mention the Lou and the K Grabo, but I thought Peggy was going to do that, so I didn't say anything about it. So I didn't know if Peggy was going to say anything more about that, but.
No, I don't have anything more to add, except that we've been really fortunate to have such a long-standing relationship with the Lou family. And I know it's because of their appreciation of Thomas Paine and what Thomas Paine did for their children. So.
Absolutely. And we've connected Mr. Majors with Kay, and they've had some connections already. And so they're going to be getting together, and Kay's volunteered again to lead the scholarship fund piece of this and kind of help select the student, the scholarship award winners. So yeah, so you're right, John. I kind of didn't, I was going to defer to Peggy because she kind of emailed me about it over the weekend. I thought she's going to mention it, but yes, we are very fortunate for our community. And so thanks for partnering.
I don't think you can keep Kay away from Thomas Paine.
Oh, no.
She was one of our longest serving teachers. Wasn't it 37 years before she retired? 37 or 38 years, I think, of service to the district. And a wonderful, wonderful teacher.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks, John. And anybody else have anything else they'd like to add? Seeing none, I would like a motion to adjourn tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Member Carter.
Yes.
Member Demmett.
Yes.
Member Patton.
Yes.
Member Plosky.
Yes.
Member Fisher votes yes. Vice President Exum.
Yes.
And President Hall.
Yes, meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.